Hello. Hello,
Buongiorno,
fellow.
Miss. Hello to you too. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I have to tell you that I got beat up pretty bad for arguing with you on our show called The Argument. Like I was called rude. I was said, why do I step all over you? And I tried to explain that that's our language. It's been our language for 45 years. I cut you off, you cut me off. This is our relationship. And that was one of the reasons why The Argument was chosen, you know.
Absolutely. And I tell you, since moving out west, I noticed some people think I either speak too fast or I'm talking when they're
Can you
talking,
slow
and
down a little bit, please?
they don't realize that sometimes, as a New Yorker, that's
Shut
what
up,
we
what?
do.
Huh?
We're both
I'm stepping. Am
we're
I
both
stepping on
talking at the same time, and we're understanding each other exactly. So there's a kind of reality that goes along with the territory, and not everybody can appreciate that.
the
Some people
territory,
feel,
man? Get the
but I
territory.
never felt that you transgressed in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully that puts minds to ease.
Oh, listen, I'm gonna get hate anyway. I'm probably gonna get accused of paying you for this.
Yeah, well,
So I'm laughing so hard I'm getting lightheaded. Anyway,
86 cents a minute is quite an achievement for me. So thank you, I appreciate that.
so I wanted that one right over my head. Where'd we get 86 cents a minute?
I because the old restaurant term to 86. Anyway,
Oh,
yeah,
86. Okay, gone.
yeah.
Kaput. Finito. I'm
Kaboom.
done. Um,
Yes.
so I want to tell you that. Let me tell you how my day started. I woke up this. I woke up in. Okay, I woke up this morning, and
Oh, please
I
give us
did.
more David Cassidy. I was missing it. I can
Cherishing
almost
you.
hear the tambourine and little Tracy's.
Yeah, little Tracy's
Good
hand.
time.
So what happened was I heard. Well, I got all these comments and stuff and screenshots, and some things were about us, and then there were things. So we went over AD's video, right? We went through his video, but he actually ended up you know uh more or less threatening the other content creators. So I did a live stream. Oh, and
I mean, Kathy.
wait, yes. And I woke I got a message from Patrick. So Patrick was pretty upset with me. And listen, that I get it. And I'd like to think that we at least can agree to disagree, because I think that we're big enough people to do that. And so I end up doing a live stream because I thought, wow, this wasn't cool. Like, it wasn't what happened with Kathy. It wasn't cool. And I don't want to bang on about that because I want to put that behind us and go forward
Understood.
into next, because the drama isn't, you don't want it to stick. But I needed to stand up and say, how I felt about the situation, and people asked how I got involved in it, and people, had their opinions. But the funny thing, just so you know, is while I'm doing my live stream, AD starts streaming my.
Well, that's an expanded audience. Isn't that kind of nice?
I was giving him content. I was like talking to his audience. It was quite funny. So that's my day. My day kind of went that way. And I do have a video, and I get this for the other channel. And I'll put it out before I go to bed tonight, because I know people are waiting on that video. So I'll put that out. But yeah. So that was my day. And then among all of it was peppered in how rude I was to my friend Phil here, and how I just would not let you speak. So I just figured I'd let you come on here and talk for like a minute. at the most. Just
I shall not berate you, and I'm not going to try and overspeak you, but clearly there's a
shut up.
mastery of
What?
debate. There's a mastery of debate that we are both struggling for. So there is some of that.
You mean I think I debate really well. You don't, and I think you debate really well. So what are you
I
saying?
do try to stay close to the point, and I try to reduce
No, you go
emotionality.
way off point. Like
I can digress, yeah, but I try to bring it back to the point.
People, and I'm not going to cut you off so much anymore. I am going to show people that you could take a statement about Batman and bring us to a fucking island on the beach going, so people will go on that experience with us now that they think that I fucking cut
I
you off.
understand.
We're going to go through many states. We'll go through many time zones, many countries. That's the way we're going to go with it. And the people will be like, Tony, you got to cut them off. You got to cut them off.
So, I haven't lapsed into chant just yet. But and is part of the universal tone. I will.
You used to always go, remember?
I do.
You and your didgeridoo. Hey, the guy plays a didgeridoo.
There's research now that says
a didgeridoo is his favorite instrument.
Yeah, there's research now that says when you exhale, if you're humming, you produce more nitrous oxide, which helps your body's circulatory system. So there's always good things to learn when it comes to that. People have been chanting for thousands of years.
Yes, Gregorian chant, actually. You didn't think I knew that.
Gregorian
you didn't think I knew that, did you?
Yeah, no, but that's only about 1,500 years old. The Om chant and like the Gayatri mantra and other mantras are much older. They have their roots in ancient Bharat, which is referred to as
I know that. Let me tell you, know how I know this stuff? I'm going to tell you the truth. Ready? Did I cut you off enough yet?
No, you're beautiful. Don't worry about it.
So don't call me names. So here's how I know about like Gregorian chant and a Baroque and all that stuff was from Music Appreciation, Broward Community College, Terry Justice.
Oh, what do you know?
I think the first music I think was Gregorian chant, if I'm correct. Yes or no?
Well, it's not the first music. No. Gregorian chant comes from, the Roman Catholic Church post Pope Gregory that initiated, that kind of evening vesper that became this, chant that has worldwide fame. I don't know enough about it to give you any more than that. I do know that it comes from the Roman Catholic Church era, where you have chanting like, gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvaha. That's a chant that's probably at least 1,000, 1,500 years old as well. That goes to ancient times.
And then what are you saying?
Goes from the Vedas. That goes probably 3,500 BC. That's about 1,000 years ago.
What were you saying in the other chant? Do you know can you break it down into English or what it would mean or the vibe of it?
If I remember correctly, gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvaha is
So what did yours say?
I believe the English translation is a reference to freeing oneself. And so it's, more the vibe of chanting. For me, the chanting, whatever the sound I'm making, regardless of the language or whatever knowledge I have about it, just because it's lyrical, the gift comes when I stop and there's a pause. And in that pause, there's a silence. And in that silence, I can sit, I can build on that silence. And the more I do it, the more silence I can accumulate, the quieter I feel inside. So that's kind of the process that chanting gets me there. But it doesn't necessarily Batman.
Isn't that what it's supposed to be like? And the mantra is supposed to put you in a place as well, right?
It could very well. I'm sure Batman learned some chanting. He got the Zen Buddhist thing, perhaps.
Krishna.
He might have gotten Yoho Renge Kyo.
Krishna.
So that's Hare Krishna's job. Yeah, the Krishna chanting and Krishnaism goes back a long time. That's 2,500 years old.
I was just watching George Harrison's Living in a Material World. Have you seen that?
I have not, but I know of the Beatles' ventures out into the Eastern Mind and trying to experience
It
something
was
very.
George that turned them on to that, sir. George Harrison turned them on to that, sir.
George was an explorer, and he probably produced one or two of the greatest songs of the Beatles from his level of genius. You know,
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. The number one love song, says Frank Sinatra, is something in the
something
way
away, right?
you move me. Yes, sir. Don't want to leave you now.
And I think of the story of Dear
No, I
Prudence.
believe in hell. That's not his. That was
No,
John.
that's John Lennon, but that
John
story of
the
them being
Leprechaun.
being in an ashram and what's her name, Sister Prudence didn't want to come out, and so they sang her a song to get her to
Dear
come out.
Prudence,
Mia Farrow, I guess she's Prudence Farrow or
won't you
so,
come
related
out
to
to
Mia
play?
Farrow. Yeah, that
Hey,
was
yeah,
those were influential things back to us
dear
in the 60s,
Prudence.
70s, and early 80s because they were
So
exploring consciousness too. You know, that
yeah,
was
they were exploring consciousness in a whole other realm as they were on psychedelics. That's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I want to tell you something. So I spoke to you earlier because now I don't know that people know this, but I know that you know that I am a massive John Lennon fan. And
yes,
and and I mean, like, the Beatles, and please give me more Beatles, right?
yes, but I don't think you're a John Lennon apologist. Like you can be sober about who these artists are and how they become
Why are we
what.
gonna beat up John Lennon? Don't beat him up right now.
I
Let's
wasn't
not.
beating him up. There's no
Yeah,
beating
you
him
were
up.
trying
That
to
was,
bring up the shit that he was.
well, no, I'm just saying you haven't come across that way. You're not an apologist. That's all I'm
No,
making that.
don't. Hey, listen, don't talk. Don't speak for me, Phil. Philip. So I'm
At
joking
least
with
you
you.
haven't done that with me, so I can
No,
attest
no,
to
no, no,
that.
no, no. No,
So
John Lennon was an imperfect man. Totally an imperfect man.
a lot
But
of
here's
artists are.
yeah, yeah, that's of course. I think that artists, maybe that's why I don't write anymore. Maybe I finally found enough peace in my life that I don't need to put it on paper. And you know what I mean?
You
But I
come
do
to a
miss
certain
my writing.
saturation
I
point,
have
I
to
think,
tell you,
too.
I miss my writing a lot. A lot. A lot, a lot. Anyway,
Well,
I was
you can still vocalize and you can tell your story because it's about story, and you could spend time. You don't necessarily have to worry about
you cut
writing it, but
me
you can
off
tell
too.
story.
Well, and I'm telling a story, but you keep cutting me off.
Well, isn't that my job this time?
The
Supposed to cut you
argument.
off. We're,
The
we're supposed to
argument.
level the playing
So
field.
listen. So I did speak to you earlier. I think it was yesterday, and I asked you if you had seen the Lost Weekend. It's on Prime, and I think it's on Prime, and it's by May Pang, who was with John Lennon on his Lost Weekend, which was totally different than the way Yoko Ono put it out there.
Did Yoko give her thumbs up on this particular
Of
product?
course not. No, 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 no,
Well, it's
no.
got
Oh
controversy
no,
right
not
off the bat.
Yoko. No, Yoko. Oh no, Yoko.
Has she put
No.
out a statement? Has Sean or anybody put out a
I
statement?
I do not know. I do not know what they said or if they said anything about it. Julian, John's oldest son, was in the film because first of all, it was her side of the infamous Lost Weekend where John and Yoko break up, and May Pang has a couple of years with John Lennon. So it was longer than a weekend. And she 100% sure John Lennon was in love with her. And there's pictures that he seems to have been in love with her. And she was the one that reunited John and Julian because Yoko Ono used to see May was somebody that worked for the Lennons. And when Julian would call, all of John's phone calls had to go through guess who?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yoko. Yoko. I mean, you're late to the game, Phil.
I
Um,
am indeed.
so she would say, Julian's on the phone, and she would say, tell him his dad's not here. So How fucked up is that?
Oh, that's where trauma comes from. Like that one doctor, Gabor Mate, says that it's how they show up for you, not how much they love you, is whether or not they showed up for you. And John probably wasn't given a chance to show up for Julian, and
That's
that's
what I wanted you to see. Yes, I wanted you to see that because he was enjoying his relationship, his new reunited relationship. So it seems, if I could count right, maybe I cannot, but if I could count right, it seems like in the 2.5 years that May Pang and John Lennon were together,
it was
that
actually 18 months. I saw that figure in relation to the article about them. So
okay, so in those 18 months, do you know how many times Julian saw his dad? Not the time with Yoko, because
right. He probably got to spend a lot of time with him, hopefully.
two or three visits, two or
That's
three
beautiful.
visits.
That's
So
very important to the kids' development because when he produced music, there was an early sound that was like, oh wow, he's going to be an artist like his dad. He's going to have soul, and there was
oh
something
my
about
God,
his
I
early.
love his first album,
That
Vlad.
first album was
Oh,
kind of
Vlad
special
sounded
that
just
way.
like John. Sounded just, and here's the
And then
thing.
of course, his father was taken from him, so he didn't have the chance to develop with him and get a mature mind as he grew older, bouncing off his dad and his dad's understanding as he was maturing. So that becomes a missing element, and that came out in his art. I felt.
Well, I love Vlad.
Yeah.
I don't know if Vlad was true to him though. He said supposedly he wrote the songs on the album. So, but I think this is my opinion of that. I think what happened with Julian was because his second album didn't even sound like the same voice. If you remember correctly, the second album was so different from the first album. It was like, who's singing this? It wasn't just the songs were different, the voice was different. So I think what happened with Julian was he was being compared so much to his dad that he made a point of changing his style, and that killed him, in my opinion. But also, there's some sort of talk that when he went to go put out an album, Yoko did something to like mess up the release date of the album or something. So vicious. Here's a woman. How much money do you expect this? And she's gonna live forever. You see that, right? Like she's still alive. Yoko Ono.
Well, Japanese folk are long lived, and a lot of it has to do with things like they sit on the floor when they eat, and they get up off the floor all the time, so their bodies are well exercised.
Do you think
There's
Yoko Ono's sitting on the floor and getting up off the floor? I just want to
Yeah,
know.
traditionally, yeah, no, that's going to be if she stays true to those values. Yeah, she would eat close to the ground, and yeah, I would think that those things would still be present. She would do a lot of floor to standing kind of,
Okay.
as they would
Okay. All right.
back in
We
her own country.
understand what Florida standing is.
But
So,
but you're right. She's going to be around for a long time, and there is this cruel stepmother thing that it's
she's
undeniable.
awful. She's awful.
Was she jealous of his love, or was she, actively trying to keep him distant from a past that he expressed to her in some way he didn't want? Was she championing him? I mean, you can never tell what's the evil stepmother thing. I've had one of those things, and her wickedness was felt, and she kept and created a distance between and maintained it even to the very end. I mean, when my brothers wanted to acquire items that belonged to my father, as it turned out, she denied them and even ended up trying to have one of my brothers arrested as a result. It got that wicked and cruel. But meanwhile, I have his name, and I myself had developed to the degree that I didn't need to make a claim on any belonging, but I supported my brothers trying to get something. And yeah, it's a tough phenomenon sometimes dealing with that. So I feel and Sean, I'm curious as far as his effort to connect to his brother once
You
he
see
made.
why I cut him off, guys? I just want you to see why I cut him off. Go ahead. Continue
What
on.
about the music? Sean's music. Did you cut Sean's music off?
What about Sean's music? I didn't cut anything off on Sean's music.
Oh, what were you saying?
I
You're
was saying,
speaking to your
do you see
audience.
why? Yeah, I was seeing our audience. I said, do you see why I cut him off? I mean, so 15 hours ago when I started the story,
You've gotten more gray hair, in fact.
Shut up.
I can
Shut up.
almost hear. I can almost see the feathers
At
fly.
least I got hair, buddy. Okay, touche. So
Well,
seriously,
I mean, I
there
got
was.
hair. It's just not on top of my head. It just migrated. It's mostly here in this ear.
Thanks for sharing.
You're
So
welcome.
yeah, she was a step monster in my opinion, total step monster. And but Julian actually like had to buy his letters that his dad wrote to him. Who does that? And she doesn't need the money, so it's not like she had to sell the stuff. That stuff isn't something that you can kind of like, that's your legacy now. Like that's something that somebody gets to say about you after you're gone. And what kind of person was those people that say that Yoko Ono didn't break up the Beatles and then see something like The Lost Weekend, they say, yeah, she probably had something to do with the breakup of the Beatles. And also during the Lost Weekend, that 18-month period, right? John was very active musically. You know, his creativity was inspired and motivated,
He
and
played with a
was
lot of artists.
he
He,
definitely did. He played
yeah.
with Harry Nielsen, he played with Elton John, David Bowie, and quite a few. And played with Ringo. And I think he did something with George at some
What do you
point
think made him
afterwards.
go back to Yoko?
Well, May made it seem like she put a spell on John.
She put a spell on him.
Yeah, that's the way you got to check it out, because
Mhm.
one, I do want to kind of have a conversation about John Lennon, because as you know, I'm a huge fan, and John will have been murdered 45 years ago in the next 5 days on December 8th.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will
He'll
make a
have been
point
gone.
in commemoration of that because I remember how it impacted me and where I
Now, how
heard it,
did it impact
who
you?
told me it. I remember those little details, you know.
So how did it impact you? Because when I first heard that John died, um, I was going to a movie theater, and you'll appreciate this because not everybody knows, but you know exactly where this is. It was the movie theater on um University University Drive, right? And is it Miramar Parkway? It's a movie theater. It wasn't far from where we stayed. You know what I'm talking? You know the movie theater I'm talking about?
I must have been on the Miramar side, perhaps going
It
towards
is on the Miramar
Miami.
side.
Yeah, because on the Pembroke side there was no theater over that side. There was an airport over that way.
Yes, 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 yes.
I remember.
Right. But
Um,
so no. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Pines Boulevard. I'm sorry.
Pines Boulevard. Yes, I
It was
remember
Pines
Pines. Yes.
Boulevard and the mall there. That mall there. You know the mall that I'm talking about right there? It was a newer mall. I don't I think you were there. And yeah, you had to be, because yes, we're
I
going back
saw one.
45 years ago.
This would have been maybe around 2000. I remember a little mall over that way because
No, no, no,
I
no,
actually
no,
mailed a
no, no,
didgeridoo. I had to mail
no.
a
I'm
didgeridoo
trying.
out of his car.
No, it was the listen to me. It was the Pines Mall, and it was on University and Pines Boulevard. And if I was 16, 17, so 45 years ago, weren't you there at that time or no? You
I
have to
was.
know this
When
mall.
you were 16, 17, I was there a little bit past that.
Yeah,
I
because
got there
right.
probably when you were a little
But that
older and you
mall
were,
was still there, and we used to go to the
yeah,
movies a lot.
we did go to movies there. So yeah, and I remember that from years later also because there was a little package store there. I was able to
But it
ship
was
my
a big
didgeridoo out of
mall.
there.
Yeah, but it was a big mall. It wasn't a
Yeah,
small
yeah.
mall. Anyway, so I mean it wasn't huge, but anyway, I remember going in to see a movie, and they had a record store in that mall. And there were all these posters of John Lennon. And I'm saying to myself, what is he? Is he got a concert coming? Like, you know what I'm saying? And then I look at a poster that says 1940 to 1980. And I was like, what? And I'm saying to myself, how is that possible? Of course, there's no cell phones at the time. There's no nothing. And I'm still saying, how is that possible? I do not know this. And I just stood there and I was gobsmacked, right?
It had to be a couple of days or so after they put up a
No, it
poster,
was
right?
the next day.
It was
No,
the
it
next day.
was the next
Okay,
day. The
all right.
next day.
Well,
And
because that was back in the day. That's the way it
yeah,
was. You didn't
so
catch
it
the
was
evening news. You didn't know what was
it
going on.
was weird, or the morning news. And at 16, I wasn't watching that shit. But
No, I
anyway,
remember walking. For me, it was walking into class. I didn't hear it on the
I'm so
news
glad
either.
that I don't
And
he cuts me
I
off.
had
Go
this
ahead.
crush on an older woman who had this beautiful English accent. And we'd always talk first thing in the morning and have a little moment. And she was sitting there. She was upset, angry, almost on the verge of tears, but not quite crying. And she's like, they killed him. They fucking killed him. She was so upset. But she said it in this, very crisp English accent. And she was different after that. Like she felt cold, like she couldn't wait to go home. She wasn't happy with America or some other thing like that. But I'll never forget that. And it was the way it impacted me because I got to kind of further connect to something that felt pretty real when you're young. Anyway, but nonetheless, here we are all these years later, and I
Well, I'd
remember.
like to tell you how I felt when he died, but I didn't get the chance because you butted the fuck. You butted me out. I just stepped all over my shit. I just told you about a record store and that I was gobsmacked, but I didn't get to tell you that I got into the record store. That I walked into the record store because I didn't. I like I was. I thought I was in a dream. Like I remember just because I had held out hope, that I was gonna at some point see the Beatles together like that. I wanted, you know what I mean? Even though had broken up, the only way that you weren't gonna see them is if one of them died, right? So, and the fact that John stood for peace, yeah, he's imperfect, but he stood for peace. Yes, he put hands on people. But to be just like murdered right in front of his wife at the doorstep of his building, getting out of a taxi, was just unbelievable.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah, just
description.
unbelievable. So when I went into the record store, I remember saying, "What's that about?" And they looked at me like I was stupid. And they were like, "What do you mean John Lennon died?" I was like, "What?" Yeah, he was shot last night. I said, "What?" Because then he died. So you're not thinking the guy was shot, but yeah, he was shot. And I'm thinking, what? Like, and then, how long was it later that Double Fantasy came out? And then the albums were coming, like they were pouring off the shelves. And, there are so many great songs that John Lennon wrote that that your average person doesn't even realize that John actually wrote, like in the movie Little Darlings. Remember that movie Little Darling? We went to so many movies together, and you're a movie buff anyway. But Little Darlings with Christy McNichol and Tatum O'Neal and
Oh yeah, yeah.
Matt Dillon, right? So, the song,
Barely remember that film.
yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
surprised. Okay, but
yeah.
the song, "Oh my love, for the first time in my life, my eyes are wide open." That was their song when they were trying to get the virginity out the way.
Oh, well, there you go.
And anyway, so I never realized that was a John Lennon song until years later. I'm listening because I was a Beatle fan. I wasn't really a John Lennon fan per se. I wanted the band,
Sure.
But when John died, I dove into every book I could get. Every book I could get on John Lennon, I devoured. You remember that, right? I mean, I did. I still have that.
I remember your love and your deep study of it at the time. Yes.
Yeah, man. So
It was
yeah,
profound.
And I really appreciate it. Well, years later, and you don't know this because we lost track of each other for a little bit. I went to Liverpool, and I happened to be doing really well financially, and I said, you know what, this is where I'm gonna spend my money. In Liverpool, I am going to spend my money on a private tour of the Beatles home. I don't care. I want to do that. I've earned that. I've loved the
Lovely.
Beatles for all of this. And this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go and I'm going to spend a couple days in Liverpool, and I'm just going to Beatle myself out. So they have this wonderful museum right on the docks, the Albert Docks in Liverpool, right by the Cunard boat ship company, right? Because that's where Cunard is, Liverpool. I don't know if you know that or not. You know, the Cunard line, Queen
I know
Mary.
a lot of ships came out. Didn't the Titanic even come out of Liverpool?
I believe so, but I don't think it was built in Liverpool, but I think it did. That's where it sailed. So anyway, right there on the docks is this amazing Beatles museum. I mean, it's just, there's interactive, there's original shit, of course, right? So, and the tour that I went on, it was amazing. So I did this tour, and so I was taken to, you know, Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane. And I remember distinctively that I was in the middle of the street, and you know, the Sergeant Pepper um song about the banker with the Mac, and the barber with you know what I'm talking about, right? The
I
song.
remember the album. I remember some of the songs, but I'm not
Right,
as
okay.
granular about the Beatles as you were.
So I'm standing there in Liverpool, and he points to Sergeant Pepper. So that there was a little club called Sergeant Pepper, and he said, in the banker with the Mac, and he said, and then the barber, and all of these places were on this one little street,
Mhm.
and it was amazing. So I went to where Pete Best. So they had, it was the Casbah, right? I think it was the Casbah, where Pete Best's mom owned the club, and they went and would play in the basement. When I tell you that the basement is probably as big as this camper, I'm not lying. I'm talking about where the stage and the audience would be.
Wow.
House is incredibly small. You can see where the Beatles went and scratched their names in the paint and stuff like that. I mean, I was just there. And then we went on this uh to the houses, right? So I went to Aunt Mimi's house where John grew up, and you know, the street that his mom was killed on by the off-duty cop, the drunken off-duty cop. So when you go into Mimi's house, you know, and you go into John's room, his room had all of his like, you remember, I still have it. You remember that piece of artwork that I had, the Bag One series with the big, you know, and it was Baby Grand, is John Lennon playing the piano,
Yeah,
remember?
I remember you had some wonderful
Yeah, I
pieces.
still have it. Yeah, no, I still have it. I want to give it to my nephew. But because it's just it's just too big, and what am I gonna do with it? So I've enjoyed it for all these years, you know. So anyway, I he had such a sharp wit about him. He would make these comics. He was like 12 years old. Like, the drawings were a little gross, as far as crude, I should say. They were crude, but the wit that was behind it was crazy. Like, he was a wordsmith. I mean, just a fucking genius with words. And then I got in later too. So that was an amazing trip. And I mean, I just, that was really special to me. I'm glad I
You
got
had
to
to
do
feel
that.
that raw talent as it was coming up. That's
It was crazy. It was crazy. John's house was nicer than Paul's house. Paul's house was very small. They actually didn't even have a working bathroom, from my understanding. A bathroom was put in later, I want to say, because I remember being in it, but or maybe I wasn't. Maybe there wasn't a bathroom, and he just showed us where like the outhouse was, because he lived in tenement houses, basically. Paul. And
I
in the
remember
really tiny living
some
room, in a
program.
really tiny living room, the guy, I mean, the McCartneys didn't have a lot of money, but in that tiny living room, there was a piano in there. I mean, there really was a piano. I, I guess they had to sit on it and shit because there wasn't room for a couch after that. But yeah.
Yeah, there was what was that? Singing in cars with that one TV host
Yeah, I
does
know
that.
who you're talking about.
The Paul
Yeah.
McCartney episode was great, and then he performed in the little pub that for all
Who
that
did?
audience.
Who,
Paul
Paul?
McCartney, yeah, that was
Paul
singing.
still performs. Paul still will perform.
It was absolutely brilliant. But on one of them, I think they walked through a house where he claimed him and John had written, um, some early "Wanna Hold Your Hand" or whatever song it was, and then they played it for their dad at the piano. And yeah, that was. There's raw talent there, but those guys practiced. They played together for what was it, 10,000 hours? Malcolm Gladwell points it out in Outliers that there's this commonality between them and people like Steve Jobs and others. They got 10,000 hours of practice at their craft before they reached for this excellence, this thing that exploded in our culture, and that they ended up representing to so many people, both here and abroad. So both abroad and here. So yeah, that 10,000 hours of playing those little clubs in Germany, those night after night, trying to make beer money, trying to make
That was the Cavern Club, I think. That was the Cavern Club, I think, there. I think the
yeah.
Casbah was the one that I'm talking about. And I met, Mona Best's, she has a son. He goes by the name of Rogue, and he's the one that has he's the one that had the pub now. I don't, it wasn't active as a pub. I mean, it can't be because fire safety laws. There's just no way. There was only one way in that place. That there was I saw um I forgot the name of the place that they played in Germany when they would go into Germany. But they spent a lot of time developing their craft and songwriting, and you know
10,000 hours is like a minimum to get to proficiency, and then this
I
excellence
don't know. See, here's the thing. I
developed
don't
on
know
that.
that they were here. Okay, brilliant songwriters. John wasn't a great guitarist. He was a rhythm guitarist. George was a great guitarist. Paul McCartney, to be honest with you, is a really great bass player, but he wasn't the best bass player then. He's turned into a great bass player. They could harmonize, and I mean, kind of like Tom Cruise.
Ringo's
If
drum
you
work, however,
kind of like Tom
is
Cruise, if
celebrated.
you take Tom Cruise and take his face apart, doesn't work. You would never think if you put it together, it'd be a good looking guy, right? It's kind of like the Beatles. Now apart, obviously, strong solo artists. But back in the day, they really did only work as the four of them together. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the only way that the Beatles were going to exist. And as a matter of fact, it's reminiscent on what Paul said. Paul said we were like a square. We didn't work unless each of us held our side up. That was we were a square. There's four sides to a square. The only way we worked is if we all did it together, and that's
And in
true.
one studio, there's actually plenty of studio footage of them collaborating.
Apple,
Everybody's putting in so much of their voice, and people felt comfortable doing it. Nobody felt, that they had to hold back on anything, it seemed, in any way, shape, or form. So there was always a collaborative environment, which is clearly, the part of their magic. But the individual artists that came out of that, I mean, Paul was incredibly prolific, and some of the great songs
Did you know that I'm going
and
to
with
cut you off?
his effort post Beatles.
Absolute fucking great songwriter. John
Yeah.
Lennon, great songwriter. George Harrison, great songwriter. Ringo, not the best songwriter, but a great performer and a great drummer.
Absolutely, his drumming is being celebrated as very unique, very stylistic,
Yeah, and look at his
very,
drum
very
kit at the time was a
technically
three-piece
accurate
kit.
to the sound he could make at his style. So
And it was a three-piece kit. I mean,
yeah,
the guy had a three-piece kit basically. You know what I'm saying? He had a floor tom, a snare, and a bass.
he just added that right level of sound that
No,
completed.
he had great rhythm, and he was creative, very, very creative, you know? Oh, this was it. Do you know this is a little bit of trivia for you. You probably don't know this one. We share this with you. Do you know that Paul McCartney is responsible for James Taylor?
Responsible? You mean like
Signed him.
he bailed him out of jail or something? Or
No, the first he was signed to Apple Records.
I know that McCartney has influenced a lot of artists. I remember
No.
Elvis Costello talked
No,
about it
okay,
too.
so wait a minute. Hang on a second. No, you're missing the point here. James, James Taylor.
Yeah.
Somebody said, hey Paul, listen to this guy. And he said, me, listen to him. And he said, yes. So he did. And he said, yeah, he's really good. So he signed them to Apple Records. His first record deal is what I'm saying was on Apple Records. Those people that are going to be like, oh, I didn't know
Was
James
it
Taylor.
Fire and Rain? Was it
What's that? Huh? What?
what,
Huh?
Fire and Rain?
The first
James.
song, I don't know what the first song. Yeah, that James Taylor, but I don't
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. No, but I meant
I
if
don't
that was
know.
the
Yeah,
song.
that's a fucking brilliant song.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen fire, and I've
And apparently that's
seen.
about his experience coming out of some kind of rehab situation from dealing with alcohol, some addiction, some drugs, something like that. And that person is a loss in his life.
Okay, so do you know who he was married to? Carly Simon.
The plans, the ends to it to us. What that was an actual loss apparently. So I felt
Okay,
there's
so
more emotion to that.
you know Badfinger, the
Isn't that
group
like
Badfinger?
one of those bands that has like the worst karma and they just suffered so much loss? Yes, I remember Badfinger.
Okay, so what was their big hit? You remember? What was that big hit?
Uh, yeah, that'll come to me. Badfinger,
I'm gonna do it. Hang on.
such a
Badfinger.
pop. You know, if Gary was here, he would know. And I say that
Gary knows every song in the world,
yeah,
my
we love
Gary.
our brother Gary.
Here it is. Let me see. Their number one hit.
But thank goodness I don't have to. That's why the Google's there. The AI is there now. So
Badfinger's most famous song. The Beatles discovered them. Just so you know.
seemingly there were a lot of bands that were putting out Beatles sounds too back in those days. They were.
Okay, you ready? Alexa, can you please play Come and Get It by Badfinger?
He said, "Come and get it." Yep. And there was another one or two, right?
Wait. Here I am, come and get it.
Well, thank goodness I can't.
Here it is, come and get it.
No, those were
Better
little hits.
hurry if you're going fast. You say must be away. Alexa, stop. With a fool and his money, honey.
You seen the film yesterday, right?
Oh yeah, the one where they come back, where everybody in the world forgets who the Beatles are. Is that the one?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, that was a good little movie.
But there was
And at the
definitely a
very end,
reference in there to.
At the very end, John Lennon is the guy that opens up the door.
I'm
Right?
sure you love that scene. That was a great scene, right? Yeah. And but there's a reference in there to how much art was lost because he was sitting down trying to search, and What was the band that he had played as a kid in high school? Their music was gone. There's just so much influence was taken from the world with their loss. Yeah. Anyway, that without a doubt was a good piece of art as well. They would have influenced so much just by their very success.
What's really funny is years later, as I worked in the restaurant industry and I had kids working under me, not literally, don't go there. I remember George Harrison came out with his album Dark Horse, right? Isn't that the album he came out with? Got my mind set on you.
I remember that music, yes.
Okay.
At that point, I was already shifted gears and music and life had changed, so I wasn't as
it's
caught
not
up
about you.
And knowing it, so I don't remember the title of the piece.
It's called Got My Mind Set on You, but I think got my mind set on you. The album's called Cloud 9. Sorry about that. The album's called Dark Horse, I think was one of his first albums when he came out from the Beatles. So I remember when that song would play on the radio in the restaurant, people would go, "Oh, I love it. It's George Harrison." And I was like, "Yeah, he was one of the Beatles." There, huh? I was like, "Yeah, George Harrison was one of the 4 Beatles." They thought that this guy just came out of nowhere. And I thought, wow, how sad. I was like,
that was also marketing at the time, the way marketing would present an artist to that generation, that class, perhaps. Yeah, no, that is. And there's a lot of today.
Then he was with the Traveling Wilburys. Remember, he was with the Traveling Wilburys. George.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan, Traveling Wilburys. There was a bunch of people in Roy Orbison.
Yeah, Orbison,
Traveling Wilburys. I wasn't. Let's see who was. I think Bob Dylan was in the Traveling Wilburys, or no? Was it? But first of all, Bob Dylan, he's a great songwriter, but he's not a great singer. Let me see. Traveling Wilburys. Who was in there? I've seen well, I've seen Paul McCartney a few times. Okay, so
I never get to see McCartney.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple times. Yeah. Okay, so here is. It is Bob Dylan. So we've got Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty.
It was Tom Petty.
It was Tom Petty. That I knew Tom Petty was in there, but I wasn't sure of Bob Dylan. I thought so, but I wasn't sure. Jeff Lynne, So yeah, some real.
I can half remember a video where the camera panned all their faces there as they were singing. So
yeah, so their number 1 hit. Let's see what their number 1 hit.
I don't remember that was a good song. That was a fun song, but yeah, for whatever reason, it's not one of those songs that stands out to this.
What are you talking about? What you talking about?
The Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah, well, hang on.
It was like
there was the most famous song by the Traveling Wilburys.
There was that band. What was it? Asia. That also was a super band. And
Handle with Care or End of the Line. Handle with Care or End of the Line. I don't know any of these songs. These don't sound familiar to me. I think End of the Line sounds familiar, but I don't know. But yeah, so and now here we go. We've got an 80-year-old Paul McCartney still jumping around on stage singing "Live and Let Die."
It's gonna be wow. You're right. He's 80-some years old now, right?
Well,
is he 80?
John was born in 1940. No, he was. John was. Ringo, I think, was the oldest, and then John, and then Paul, and then George.
So Paul was 5 years younger.
I don't think he was 5 years younger. He was a year or two younger. Paul McCartney was born June 18th. That I know. Let me see. Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
Paul.
no, we have a lot of aging rockers, and
Yeah, can you imagine Mick Jagger, who I really am not a fan of Mick Jagger. So Paul's 83 years old. He was born in
83. Yeah, no, he's
he was
older.
born in 1942, 2 years older, 2 years younger than John.
Yeah.
82. Can you I don't think that they said that they didn't want to be on stage. You know what I'm saying? At that age, they didn't want to be 40 years old
Well,
stage.
they were wise ass kids back then, also
Well, no, but they
responding to
all
very,
said it.
very
They
critical
all said
reporters.
it. So
I want.
just so you know, Ringo is 85. He was born in July. But
Recently, I
John
want
was
to
born
say
in October, and so that's why.
Christopher Columbus, the director of the movie. Is it Christopher Columbus? I believe so. Directed the movie Almost Famous, and he was talking about his experience with music, and that there were a lot of critics that were very, very harsh and critical to a lot of music that is still as popular today and played as much today as it was even back then in many places. And then the Beatles had a lot of critics. There was a lot of people made money in trashing music and giving it tough reviews. And here he was, an honest kid trying to write. What was it, for heavy metal or whatever? But what was that one guy's name? Lester
Rolling
Bang.
Stone. You talking about
Rolling
Almost
Stone. Rolling
Famous?
Stone. Yeah, Rolling Stone.
Yeah,
Chris, what was it?
it was Rolling Stone.
Yeah, yeah. That's the kid. Yeah, and yeah, that's a great movie as well that captures some of that. But those
But
people had to face harsh critics. His whole disrespect of the enemy. He called
what are you
the kid,
talking about now?
the
Who are you
way
talking?
the press was treated in the movie with the kid who was in effect trying to be honest to the craft and express
Yeah,
what
but
the
he
music
was
did
a
to him.
newspaper writer.
And guys like the Beatles had to deal with these critics that represented what, to some degree, that movie sort of fleshed out on the other side of it. You had people who hated critics. They hated the press. They saw them as the enemy. I'm sure the Beatles had to struggle with a lot of critics and a lot of pain.
So I think that I don't think they gave a fuck at a certain age. I mean, I really
No, but
don't.
they
I
were
don't
wise
think
ass. They made
I
predictions
don't
about
think that they
themselves.
cared. And then when they got more serious, it was Brian. And Brian basically kept them in line, And it was after Brian's death. Now you're dealing with men. They're not stupid little, and I don't mean to say stupid, I should say naive or ignorant young adults, because now they know what it's like to be on stage. They have their own opinions. They're married. Some of them have started families. And then Brian dies, and
I saw somewhere that John loved.
people are trying to in the band kind of take Brian's place, because Brian was more or less the person that they looked to, and now that person wasn't there anymore. What'd you say?
That John specifically loved Brian, and he had referred to the depth of their relationship to be intense, but never consummated. He specifically used those words. That's how much a feeling he had for him, and he was being and giving an honest reflection on what he meant to him.
Well, you also have to remember that John didn't have a relationship with his dad. And even though Brian wasn't old enough to be his dad, he was, a father figure, an authoritarian figure, more or less, for the group. And they spent a lot of time together, the two of them. But I don't think anything happened. And if it did happen, I'm sure it was consensual. And, but
He said it was intense. He gave it credit that it influenced him. He loved that person, and that was the impact that it had on him. And
yeah.
yeah, that's
Incredibly sad when Brian died, but that's when the band kind of obviously spiraled out, and just
the
didn't. I
unifying
guess
force.
Brian had the glue. I guess Brian had the glue in the relationship as far as the band goes, because I think at that point, people were just starving for their individuality. And what was really sad, in my opinion, back then is, they still weren't the most mature bunch of people, and I don't think that they are, or that they would be today, simply because of the way that at such a young age they went into stardom, and that has continued on throughout their whole life. You know what I'm saying? So did they ever really starve? They were so young when they did. You know what I'm saying? Did they? You know what I'm saying? That it's been yonks since they've can reflect on that, maybe, in my opinion. But
It's
um
foundational, though, having struggled through that and then getting on the other
well, I
side of
think
it.
by
And
seeing their parents and stuff like that, and especially, Paul, because you know Paul's family was extremely poor. Like I said, they lived in the tenement homes, and George lived in a private, home,
I would
that
imagine
wasn't
he was
attached.
very charitable to his friends and family. I know that
Oh,
somewhere recently,
Mimi could not stand Paul McCartney. Could not stand. She didn't like anybody, any of John's friends. She just
no, but I meant in
He
terms of his
wasn't the warmest
personality,
person,
because
from my understanding.
I want to say that I saw Julian referred to him as the closest thing he felt to a father was
Yeah,
love
that
for
would be
Paul.
Paul. Yes, yep,
Yeah,
that I agree with that.
that's what
That's
made
what
me think of that. He would be generous of spirit. He would.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I lost your feed, but yeah, that he would be
No, you
generous.
didn't lose my feed, you just lost my face.
I lost your face.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
just didn't wanna show myself at the moment because I'm trying to do something, that's why.
Yeah, no
But,
problem. That's okay.
so
Sometimes you got to move the feathers out of the way. So I understand.
I'll be talking about my hair. So anyway, about John and, what's your feelings? Did we talk about this? I don't know if we talked about this or if I talked about this with somebody else. What are your feelings about that hologram type, like putting a song together when somebody's not there? So, Free as a Bird, which is a Beatles song that was put together when only three of the Beatles were alive. It was a song I guess they found of John's. He had begun recording it, I guess, and they kind of added to it and used
I do
like
remember
a
hearing it, and it
free
wasn't.
as a bird,
It
that
didn't
song.
deliver. Like I could hear John a little bit. I could hear
As
some
a
of the harmony. It
bird.
just didn't.
Well, John, I think, was the main vocal because I think it was his
It was
song that
his
they
vocal, right? Yeah,
I think so. I think it was his song that they had found and put it
organized
together, but
around it.
yeah. So, yeah, it was free as a bird. You know that song, right?
I do remember hearing it at least once or twice, but it doesn't. Yeah, no, I can't say I remember the lyric or the melody.
Yeah. So it was just really simple. It was nice to see. My thing is, in my lifetime, I didn't hear any real recordings of the Beatles while they were together, including Free as a Bird. Like, because things happen in the process of songwriting that, when a group's involved, obviously, that wasn't done with John included. They just took an unfinished piece of John's work and more or less finished it for him and added their vocals, and I guess manipulated something to get a final verse on the song.
Yeah,
But
it's more a composite than a collaboration.
yeah, because John wasn't able to work off of Paul the way that they used to work off of each other, because he wasn't there to be able to say, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think about this, man? Hey, it kind of sucks the second line. Oh,
You
fuck
know,
you too. Let's
there
smoke
are
ciggies. No,
songs.
you smoke ciggies. Can you stop playing? Look at that. Play here. Yeah, that stuff.
Exactly. There are songs on both of their end that they produced with others that I wondered what John's influence might have done to, like, maybe I'm amazed. You know,
Oh, that's such a
what
great
Paul's
song. That's
harmonies
one
might
of
have
my
done for
favorite Paul
Imagine,
McCartney songs.
you know,
I
or
don't think,
or
let me tell
Mind
you something.
Games,
I
like
think
what.
maybe I'm amazed is I don't see how you can make that song better. I just
Hey,
really
John,
don't.
but consider though that would, if that was, they were in collaboration, and Paul came up with that sound and that idea, John might have come up with something that did make it amazing. It might have been something that
It's
might have
amazing as
reduced
it
it
is.
too. Who knows, right? But nonetheless, it would have been part of their collaboration, and always been a place to wonder what the timelines might have shifted and produced if Paul McCartney produced a harmony for Mind Games or did something that
Yeah.
balanced.
You know what one of my
You know,
favorite Paul McCartney songs are? And you turned me on to the later Paul stuff, to be honest with you. I'm still nosing in John's stuff. You turned
well,
me on to so I'll finish and I'll give you credit if you let me.
go.
So it was Jet. So it was the Ram album, and it was a song, and every time I hear this song I think of you. Do you know the song I'm talking about? I can name it, but I was wondering if you would remember. It was one of Paul's earliest songs. There's two. I'll give you two of them. So you can
You
either
know,
Hello,
you always
hello,
want to put
hello,
me on the spot with
hello,
that, but
wheels. That was you that turned me on to Hell on Wheels.
okay.
Okay. And then the other one that you turned me on to was oh God, what's the name of the song? Maggie's Farm.
Oh, Maggie's Farm, of course, yes.
Yeah. So
Well,
it
there
was
was
Hell
something
on
magical
Wheels.
about McCartney. We loved McCartney and his, Ram Back to the Egg. There were a bunch of albums that we played
Oh,
on.
absolutely. Remember we saw Give My Regards to Broad Street together.
Broad Street as well. That was another great
Right.
album. That was something that
Well,
more,
we saw the movie. Remember
that
we
was a
saw that
later.
was a
That was
movie.
later. We went and saw that in the theater or whatever that was. Right? Yeah. No, I
Yep.
remember that as well.
Yeah. So I mean, lately, I guess my favorite McCartney stuff later on, my favorite album of his, post Wings and post Paul McCartney in the 70s, and then Wings would have to be Flowers in the Dirt. Like I thought that was a great album, and that was the one of the concerts I saw was Flowers in the Dirt. So that was a pretty good album. I thought so anyway. And I think on that album he does the duet with Elvis Costello. You know,
I know that he had influenced some of Elvis. Like
oh
he,
God, he's influenced so many people. I
but
mean,
that kind of creative genius that he would have had with John, that was there and that was given to others. It was that
well, here's
collaborative.
the thing. I mean, yeah, but I think here's my feeling about the breakup
What does it
was
say? The song Veronica.
well, they outgrew
Elvis
each other.
Costello?
They outgrew each other. The Beatles outgrew each other, and I feel like there was a lot of competition between them on the albums, especially. And George would have said this, um, that George was only allowed 2 tracks on the album, so George had all this stockpiling of great songs. I mean, think about it. Here comes the sun. Na, 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 na. That wasn't that was a Beatles song. But then when you think about some of the songs that came out after the fact, all that stuff he wrote and was just waiting for his time to put them on an album, and then the Beatles breaks up and he's got a full-fledged album out there. I mean, he had so much music, and George was a brilliant songwriter. Some of my most favorite Beatles songs are written by George Harrison. Taxman, I love Taxman. While my guitar gently weeps. He's just, I think that yeah, I think, and I liked George's voice as well. I don't think that he was given as much credit as the other two. He was the younger one by, a few years, and that mattered back then. So much so that he got thrown out of Germany because he was underage. So that was one of the reasons why they had to leave Germany. They had to wait. They found out that George was underage, and they Yeah, and so that
Can't
they
be
had to
leave the
listen to
beer
their,
garden when you're when you're under 15 or whatever, you're 16.
but here's the thing, imagine his family. His family let him go. And you know why they let him go? There was no Brian at the time. So they let him go because of John. I mean, George really adored John for a long time. Another content creator, I had mentioned something about one of my favorite books by the Beatles that I just devoured, and it was about the Beatles. And I just devoured, and I kept thinking about it over and over again. And I went to purchase the book because I wanted to reread the book, and the book was so expensive that I was like, because it's out of print now, and da 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 da. So I mentioned the book, and this content creator and her husband buy me that book,
Oh wow.
and I have that book right by the side of my bed. And that book still holds true to today. So the book that I'm talking about is called Apple Scruffs. And it's mainly about George because the woman that wrote the book, her favorite Beatle was George. Not originally, but it was his personality and his kindness that won her over. So Apple Scruffs are these girls that used to hang out, or there was a guy actually in there too, and not a gay guy, just a guy that liked music and just adored the Beatles, or idolized the Beatles, probably because he wanted to be, a musician or whatever. So these people would hang out on the steps of the Apple studios. And they'd be there all the time, like no lie, they'd go in shifts. Like, you should read this.
Just trying to get a
I'm not
glimpse of
gonna get rid of my
someone.
book. I'm not gonna get rid of my book. Nobody's gonna borrow this book. But just how they used to go in shifts to watch them come. They went to the houses, like they went to the houses. The housekeepers knew them. The Beatles were very nice to them. So this book is written by a girl. She was a young woman. I mean, 18 at the time, and she was from the United States. She saw the Beatles, I want to say, in Texas. Was in love with the Beatles, and her mother said, if you want to spend a summer in London, you go ahead, and you got to get a job. We'll help you, but you got to get a job. That's amazing, in my opinion, back then. And so she, met other Beatle fans, diehard fans, and this was like in '69 before the Beatles broke up. Apple Records, they were doing the White Album, yeah. So about that time, right? And then she yeah, it'd be the White Album and Get Back, right? Let It Be. No, it'd be the White Album and Let It Be. So she becomes friends with these other girls, and the Beatles, I think it was George actually that coined the name Apple Scruffs, because sometimes they wouldn't do their laundry and stuff, and
It
they'd be a
looks
little
scruffy, sure.
disheveled, yeah, a little scruffy.
Term of
So
endearment.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the name of this book is Apple Scruffs, and it's written by Carol Bedford. I want to say is her name, but it really talks to the spirit of each of their Beatles. These girls went into Paul McCartney's home and took photos. And one of the photos that they took was of his dead mom with her son. And like, one of the girls had to steal the picture back from one of the girls to give it back to Paul.
That's wow.
And we're talking
Well,
about,
that's fanaticism. They set a standard of what it is to be a fan back then. The
is that
groupie,
crazy? But to
the
break
band-aid,
into their
as they used
home.
in Almost Famous, and distinguish themselves from groupies. Yeah, no, that's pretty intense. And from that you get probably the modern paparazzi. The extremes that people will go to
Well,
get the
no, no, no.
shot.
So you got it. So wait a minute. So let's go back in time a little bit. So that's not true. I love the Beatles, but rock and roll came from the United States. It came from here. So there was already paparazzi, and there was already stuff with Elvis, and Elvis came before the Beatles. Buddy Holly came before Elvis. Basically, he made his or they about the same time. I think that they had met each other. I don't know, but close to the same year. I'm sure that they both came up, Buddy Holly. So there was matinee idols and stuff because my mom
You
was
know, we
talking.
invented superstardom without a doubt with Elvis and those people that came up
There
after
was
him.
a
Frank
manic-ness,
Sinatra
right?
and
Like
his
a manic.
single,
Do you
Ray
think?
Charles
Well,
and
that's
his field.
interesting. Wait a minute. So that's interesting. That's interesting. So do you think before rock and roll? Seriously, like I'd love to know this. Do you think before rock and roll that people would go to shows or concerts and just sit there, or what is it? Rock and roll that made people stand up and make the. I
No,
mean,
I think the before rock and roll has its roots in the blues and the music that came out of probably the South and people
no, I'm
working
talking
with.
about concerts. Wait a minute, I'm talking about concerts. I'm not talking about speakeasies or places where people would have a dance floor. I'm talking about sitting
So
in your seat in an
probably most of the
audience,
time there were
watching
shows.
a concert, watching a concert, and having it be orderly. And then when did it not become orderly?
Well, that probably happened in the 80s. And I remember as a kid stumbling upon a practice. I got to see a practice of the Cowsills, which was the band, the Partridge Family, that was modeled after. And they were doing their song Hair, and it was in Atlantic City. And I just kind of
Jimmy
turned the corner.
Head was there. Yes, it wasn't.
And,
It was. I just watched the
and,
thing on the Castles.
and I walked into a room in Atlantic City, and the next thing you know, it was an auditorium, and there was this music that I could feel in my gut. I'm maybe 5 or 6 years
And that
old.
was the
I
Castles?
wandered
Oh, it was
from the
hair. Okay,
Hair.
it was hair at least.
Yeah, and it was Hair. I remember it distinctly because it was an unforgettable, and I heard it on the radio. So you remember that kind of experience, and yeah. But anyway, there
You
was.
want to see my first album? Wait a minute, I'm going to show you my first album. This is my first love into music, and I really have to thank my mom for it, to be honest. So
But as
let me
far as
show you.
shows go, I think with
This
the
was my very first album.
as the '80s came up, you had much more wild venues and oh, the Osmonds. What do you know?
So wait a minute,
That was
because
Donny Osmond was a crush back as a kid.
so this album opened up. It was a double album. Their first album was a double album, 1971.
1971. Wow.
Yep, and this had "Sweet and Innocent" on it. Sweet and innocent, you're just too young, little girl, and
I
beautiful.
want to say
And it
my
also
first
had
one was like
it
Three
also
Dog
had
Night.
one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch, girls. Yeah, I don't care what they say. And it also had in heavy, he's my brother. So some great songs on that album in my opinion, but that was my first intro into music more or less, besides my dad singing to me. It was the Osmonds. That was my
They
first
did a lot
album.
of covers on that one.
Oh yeah, they didn't write their own songs back then.
Yeah. What do
I
you know?
think one of the first songs that they wrote that was popular was Crazy Horses, and I think Down by the Lazy River. And they were very rock songs. Those songs are just now getting appreciation by critical acclaim by um people in the industry. I want you to hear something which will surprise you. This is Osmond. This is going to surprise you.
Recently, I saw a clip of like one of Donny Osmond's songs played at a slower speed, and it sounded like Megadeth, and it was brilliant. It was, and he reacted to it. He thought it was one of those. Yes, we were a rock and roll band back then. We were making rock and roll music.
Yeah, so listen, so they wrote this song. I want you to hear this. Listen to this. This is an Osmond song, 1972. Okay, you ready? This is an original.
It's not picking it up too well.
Wait a minute.
Oh, that's it. Put it by the microphone.
I,
Your microphone right there. Position it a little better so the speaker is by your microphone. That's when I heard it.
so that
They were the Osmonds. They were
yeah, but that doesn't matter. So because they were all very prolific in their instruments.
Yeah, but like I said, somebody recently did something neat like that, and it sounded like Megadeth or whoever it was.
Harmony. They had a harmony.
That's it.
They had a harmony. Yeah, they had a harmony as younger. You know, they were a quartet, a barbershop quartet when they started.
Yeah.
So they had a harmony among them that was amazing. So you know where they got the sound for the horse? You know what instrument that is from?
Was it a dulcimer? I couldn't tell. There was something he was playing.
It was his keyboard. It was Donnie's keyboard.
Oh, okay.
Donnie came up with that because it was something about that keyboard. If you hit something and then messed, and it was new at the time, so not a lot of keyboards had it. Now I think it's a standard thing. If you hold something, then it will do the whole range or whatever.
So that was supposed to be the sound of a horse?
It sounds like a horse.
Oh, it did? Oh, okay, because to me it sounded like a sad, sick cat that somebody was holding by the tail too tight. I was not hearing a horse. I was hearing, somebody stepping on the back of a cat, and it was more like maybe
it was crazy horses. So I think that song is not one of my favorite Osmond songs because when I liked the Osmonds, I wanted to hear Donnie sing, Merrill sing in there, and part of the reason I think Jay was singing there. Part of the reason, the mixed blessing in that is that Donnie was going through like puberty at the time. So his voice was changing. So he couldn't sing so many
little Peter Brady activity.
He couldn't sing so many leads. But look, they came out with this whole other sound, and they wanted to kind of get away from and they called it
Well, and later they had the television show with the sister there. She was
Donnie
a little bit
Marie.
of country.
He was a little bit of rock and roll. I'm a little bit country. I'm a little bit rock and roll. I don't know how we got from the Beatles to the Osmonds, but I'm gonna get hate for that. No
Why
doubt.
would you do that? Because
I'm gonna get hate from the Beatles to the Osmonds.
We are an associative thing, so music is appreciated at every level. But
listen, I think Donny Osmond's very talented. Shit, he's got to be. Look at how long he's been in the music industry. The first concert I ever saw, the Osmonds. It was at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. I was, oh God, I don't know. How old was I?
Tropicana in Las Vegas?
Las Vegas, that's how many years ago. And my brother was the one that took me down to the show. So we went there with my grandparents, and one of my brothers took me to see the show. And I remember my other brother said to him, if you want a seat closer, you need to tip the maitre d' or the guy that was walking. And my brother did do that. So, I think he tipped him. I don't know how much, but my grandparents gave him the money, but it was just him and me that went down to, because we were staying in the same hotel.
You started out with a $5 bill. You start out with
we were staying in the same hotel.
Yeah.
And so I want to say I was maybe 7 or 8. I was mad young. I was young.
Sure. Yeah. And you remember it.
Oh yeah, that was the Osmonds, man. That was the Osmonds, man. I remember seeing them running in the cat. I remember seeing them eating.
Maybe even a little younger.
I remember seeing them eating in the hotel restaurant that was closed to the public and looking through like the windows. Everybody was looking through the windows, and I looked through the windows and I saw Donnie eating. I used to have Jimmy Osmond's autograph and Marie Osmond's autograph. Now that I think about it, I got Jimmy's autograph. Somebody gave me a picture of Jimmy while I was there. A fan, and
Yeah,
she
you were
said, "Ask
probably a
him." To,
very cute little kid. I'm sure they did
she
just
said,
from
"Ask him to sign the back of the picture," and he did. And
yeah.
then I remember talking to Marie for a second. This
Really?
was
Wow. Did
yeah.
she
The only
actually hold you or hug you or
no, I didn't try to do any of
push
that.
your
I mean,
feathers away or anything? No.
I didn't try to do any of that. What?
You know, touch the scruff of your hair, your
What the fuck?
beautiful, your
No,
locks, your feathers, your
no. What the fuck is
no.
wrong
Yeah.
with you?
And that's what do you mean? Of course, would you have this interaction with someone so close? I remember as a
And
kid,
what do you
Suki
mean so close?
Scales,
I walked up
he
to her,
picked
I
me up
said
as
something, and
we
I
they were
asked
in a
for an
parade.
autograph. How is that so close? Nobody better fuck with my hair and shit.
Well,
I
you're a
don't
little
want that.
kid, there's a
No,
sweetness.
she wasn't a kid. I mean, she was older than me. Not, I mean, she wasn't that much older than me, but she was still
Oh,
older than me. Those people, they didn't touch anybody. They're Mormons. They didn't touch anybody. Nice and kind, but they weren't huggers. I mean,
well, I
I'm
don't
sure.
know.
I don't even think Marie wasn't even of age. She had no business hugging on people. To be honest with you, I mean, she wasn't even of age at the time. If I was 6, she might have been. If I was 8 or if I was 8, she might have been 11. You know what I'm saying? Like she's not that much older than me.
I would say my first concert was Frank Zappa in Poughkeepsie, New York. I saw him at the Civic Center, maybe the day before Halloween, and it was a gift from a friend at the time, Wendy Liggett. I feel good about saying her name. Wiggle Ann. She was. She opened that door and seeing Zappa for the first time, seeing that as a concert, Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. That was quite a show. It kind of really did sort of bring a theatric to music that I hadn't quite factored in. How the wow of it, and
The
I saw Pink
performance of
Floyd
it.
do The Wall, and that was sort of the height of theatrics at the time, blended with music and music you knew that was delivering something to you that was greater than
So,
you. Yes.
so my first concert after the Osmonds, okay, so like my first rock concert, we'll call it that, yes, was da 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 Frampton Comes Alive. Tell me I wasn't blessed.
Oh, that's a great concert to have
That's
seen.
a great
Sure.
guy. Jay Giles, I want to say Jay Giles opened for him. I want to say Jay Giles, and I don't like Jay Giles band.
No, but that's great music. That's now we
But
listen to it.
fucking
It's
Peter
great music.
Frampton at Miami Baseball Stadium.
Wow, that's a hot, long, sweaty show. I'm sure.
And
Yeah.
I remember that we had we had seats right in front, like he wasn't that far from us, and we were
And it was
sitting
the
on the
Comes Alive
ground.
album.
What?
Was it Frampton Comes Alive album?
Yes, it was the Frampton Comes Alive tour. So yes, absolutely. That was it. Absolutely. He played every song on that album. Every song on that album. And
Awesome.
do you know that Peter Frampton, do you know who he played lead guitar for later in life?
Later
He,
in life, no, I don't. I'm
okay,
sure he play. Did he play with multiple artists?
no.
No.
He went on tour with this guy as well. You ready? You want to guess anybody? You want to try to guess anybody?
Roger Daltrey.
No.
Uh,
No, because of the hair?
Alice Cooper.
No. Okay. All right. I'll tell you. All right.
Okay.
David Bowie.
Bowie, sure, that's brilliant.
So here's the reason why. You ready for this? Peter Frampton's dad, guess what he did for a living?
Hairdresser.
Guitar teacher.
He what?
I think he was a guitar teacher, and
Oh,
he was some affiliation with David Bowie, and Peter Frampton became friends with David. So it was David Bowie and Peter Frampton's dad that had the friendship. And that's so Peter became part of his relationship with David occurred because of David's relationship with his dad. You know, just
He's
a regular
another
friendship.
artist that inspired a lot of great artists.
Oh,
He wrote
David Bowie,
music for a lot of great
Spiders,
music for artists and others, and
Glass Spider Tour. I saw
yeah,
that. David Bowie, absolutely.
he invented himself several times in such
Absolutely, absolutely. You know
amazing
that
ways.
that Jen and I had a few animals named after David Bowie. We had China Girl, and we had Ziggy Stardust.
So, are we adding to your hate now because we bounced from the Beatles to the Osmonds to Bowie?
I don't hate Bowie. I like Bowie.
No, 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 no. I'm saying, are we adding to your hate that you're going to get because we
Oh no
bounced
no
from the
no no!
Beatles
Nope. Nope.
to the Osmonds to Bowie, which is a Bob, by the way.
Yeah.
Beatles, Osmonds, Bowie.
Yeah. Absolutely. Beatles, Osmond, Bowie.
But
So
there was a lot of influence to a lot of artists as a result of Bowie's brilliance. I
absolutely,
mean, just
absolutely, absolutely,
heartfelt brilliance.
absolutely. So one of the first rock albums, right, that I ever got, was "Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player," Elton John.
I remember that album, strangely enough, too. That was a Columbia Records deal that came with the Dirt Brown Cowboy. And
Only if you bought Dirt Brown Cowboy and attached it to it for the 1 penny.
for the 1 penny, you got 11 records or whatever it
And
was.
then you had to pay back the others, but we never paid them back.
I don't remember ever paying them back. I still get letters wondering if I ever will.
They're worse than Scientology. So
They're
but
always
yeah,
wondering, where's their $2?
so Elton John and Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. Brilliant album. Crocodile Rock. Crocodile Rock is on that album. Daniel. Daniel, my brother, you are older than me. Okay. And then we have Elderberry Wine. It's a great song. And we have Blues for Baby and Me, which was a song, one of Jen and my songs.
Yeah.
Great song. And one of my favorite songs off the album is "Oh Teacher, I Need You Like a Little Child." Yep. You got something in. I love a lot of Elton John. Like I even liked his stuff when he wasn't with Bernie Taupin. Like one of my favorite albums of Elton John is Jump Up. And that's where he sings
What year was that album? Is
Johnny.
that right?
That's where, well, it's, I think I want to say around 1980 because he sings this song to John Lennon, Empty Garden. Remember that song?
No, I can't say I know that one.
Oh yeah, you do. You definitely do. You definitely do. So hang on. Hang on. I know you know this song.
It would have played on like
Absolutely. You know this
ABC
song.
radio back in the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want, here you go. Listen.
I have to pull it up myself because we
As the New York sunset disappeared, I found an empty garden among the black stones there.
yeah, okay, it's half familiar. I probably heard it
Who
any number of times on the radio
lived?
back then, but
He must have been a gardener that catalog,
yeah.
weeded out the tears and drew good crop. And now we pray looks strange. It's funny how one said. You know this song, yes?
I can't say I know the song, but it's familiar enough now that you told it.
Okay, wait,
I
because the
don't even
hook.
remember having heard it on the radio.
What's it for? This little empty garden by the brownstone door. And it sings, "Hey, hey, Johnny." Remember that? Nothing grows no more. You don't know that song? And then it goes, "Hey, hey, hey, Johnny, can't you come out to play?" You know that song. You never heard it? Come on.
Oh, I'm saying I've heard it. I can say
Yeah.
that but I
So
don't know it. I don't know.
Elton
that
John.
they didn't stick with me as much as, like, say, Three Dog Night songs like Eli's Coming, where I can hear it sometimes in the back of my head, or Jeremiah
So
Was a
Three Dog
Bullfrog,
Night and One.
uh,
Did you know that they sang
one
One?
is one is the loneliest thing.
One is the loneliest
Why are people
number
so
that we've
eager to
ever
go?
seen.
Say no. That's a powerful song too.
Yeah, the Three Dog Night. Yep. And they
Yeah.
were big when I was in first grade. I want to say in first grade. Somebody brought up Cat Stevens to me the other day.
That
And
music is
Cat
also
Stevens,
beautiful.
brilliant, brilliant. Wild World, brilliant. A great song. Tea for the Tillerman. These are great songs. You know.
Yeah, even as a later artist playing that music, he keeps that spirit, that energy of it alive. Because
Yeah.
now Yusuf Salam, he's changed his name.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. He gave. He was going.
that's
He was
cool.
playing here. Not. He was playing here not long ago. But the person that I usually go to concerts with was like, no, he's too political. I'm like, turn the political shit off. Just listen to him play. You know what I mean? Like, and they weren't into it, and I lost track of going. But yeah, I would love to see him play like that old stuff, and he does. You know, he does. That's what he's singing on his shows. Otherwise, he ain't selling out anything. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think if Lennon was still alive, and Lennon made
Oh
it to
my
even
God, forget it.
85, if he would be talking about Reagan to the point where Reagan would probably want to have him killed for all we know. That would have been a merciless uh, shakedown through music and art, I would imagine. And it would have even maybe activated Yoko in a way that she would have become a lot more vocal and political.
She was
At
pretty
the time.
political.
But during the time of tumult, when Reagan was starting to cut back and the GOP was starting to come out and they were getting more theocratic and all that
Yoko
stuff.
was still alive. Yoko's still alive today.
She backed off on everything, though. The only thing I
Well, I
remember from
think
her,
because John
remember
got
that show? It was
because
called
I think because
Mad
she saw
About
her
You.
husband die in front of her face,
Well,
she
without
might
a
have
doubt. But
backed away a little bit.
the one thing I remember her post that there was a show called Mad About You
Yep.
with
Yep.
Paul
Paul
Reiser
Reiser. Paul.
and
Yeah.
Helen Hunt, is it?
Helen
And
Hunt. Yeah.
yeah,
No, was
and
it? Yeah. Yes.
and he gets a gig to film something, and they actually get to have her on camera, and she's commissioning him to film the wind. And that was his job, was to figure out how to go out and film the wind.
Right.
That always stayed with me as far as
Well, you do
her
know.
presence in the art world goes. Um, but
So
to think that I think they, if he was around, they would have been more vocal and more political. That would have not have gone away.
okay,
We would have
probably
there would have
so.
been a lot of opposition to Iraq, the early Iraq stuff.
Right. Okay. So you know that there was two movies that they came out with John and Yoko, and one movie was called something like Legs All the Way Up to There, and it was just filming a bunch of celebrities, and I think the celebrities paid $1 each to do this, and it was filming their legs up, like from the bottom up, and then the next person, and that was the whole thing. And at the very end, it was John and Yoko, and they filmed them, and then they turned around and they got the front. Um, and then the second one was called Fly, FLY, and there was a woman that it comes to find out this came out in the last weekend that unfortunately they found an H user. I can't use the word on YouTube. So somebody that did H, you know what I'm talking about?
Of course,
Okay. And she basically laid on a bed and they had, a fly walk all over her body. And that was the film, was filming this fly walk on her naked body.
that's yeah, that's
Joker's artwork.
that art theater mentality. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Avant-garde. Avant-garde.
Avant-garde, right. Well, I think of the movie Idiocracy, where in the future, somewhere along the line, the movie of the year will be just an ass that someone will film, and it'll have all the
Exactly.
nuances that will
Exactly.
keep people happy.
Well, it didn't. I mean, they bombed, obviously. The shit bombed. But
And
yep.
it's a little depraved.
Now
But
let me ask
I was
you
sure
this.
she was an intravenous user, so she was probably completely unaware that her body was
That's
being
why they
used.
picked that's why they picked her. And
Yeah, I mean, it's like
unfortunately,
sort of, writing and drawing penises on someone's face when you're a frat boy because someone is parked out drunk. It's kind of mean and cruel spirited to some degree.
well, they paid her for it. I mean, she was willing, but unfortunately, yes, and they had to give her that so that she would be kind of nodded out. So let me ask you this a little bit
Oh,
more.
they supplied it too. Wow, what do you know?
So this came out in the last weekend. So let me ask you about this little piece of trivia. So George Harrison had a side gig. You should know this. Besides music, do you know what it is?
I do not.
Really? So
He had a spiritual pursuit, so maybe
no, okay, no, but it's not that. It's nope, it's
he was
not
a
that.
sitar teacher or something. Did he
Sitar, no,
sitar?
no.
What
So
did I
what
say?
he,
Sitar.
yeah.
All right.
So
Sitar.
it's all right. But so are you familiar? And you should know this, I think. Um, are you familiar with handmade films?
I can see the title somewheres, but I can't say I'm
Okay,
not.
so
I'm not familiar with
wait a
it
minute.
to any
So
degree.
wait. Yes, you are. So I'm going to tell you why. So
Handmade films.
yeah. So
Okay.
you know the movie Life of Brian.
Yes, that's a Monty Python film.
You know the Monty Python films.
I do.
Okay. So the production company that they come from is
Handmade
Handmade
films. Is
Films,
that correct?
right?
Okay.
So do you know who who financed Handmade Films?
Looks like it was George Harrison, huh?
Bingo.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
Python films are.
Classics.
They were magic themselves too. Okay.
Classics. Witty, fun. Yes, classics. So yeah, so George Harrison,
Yeah. The vignettes from Meaning of Life still stay with me all the time. You
that's
know,
right. Life of Brian.
the the lady looks up and she says, "It is a boy or a girl?" And the doctor looks down and says, "It's a little too early to start applying roles to it, don't you think?" That always stayed. Yeah, their comedy was kind of cutting edge and
Clever,
genius.
very clever. Clever, right? John
Yeah.
Cleese. I love John Cleese. You've seen Faulty Towers, yes?
I've seen pieces of Faulty Towers. It
Oh my
just wasn't my
gosh,
cup
me
of tea at the time. I
too.
didn't watch it. Yeah, a lot of British humor sort of missed me. I will watch some British dramas, but the stuff about the royalty and humor just, I don't know. It's,
Yeah, but no. Faulty Towers took place in a hotel that
but it was a
was
comedy thing. It was like Benny Hill, right?
that
It
was
was.
brilliant. No, it was listen, my dad loved Benny Hill. I didn't quite get Benny Hill. I got Faulty Towers. Sylvia turned me on to Faulty Towers. I love that. I have it. I mean, I have videos of Faulty Towers. Okay, so have you ever seen a show called The Bottom? Bottom.
I can't say that I have. I've seen that title.
So The Bottom is a brilliant and this was like in the 70s, a brilliant show by Rick Mile or Mile. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Rick Mall, but it's Myall. He's no longer with us. And Ab Fab, absolutely fabulous. The two
Yes, I
women.
remember that
Okay.
show. That's another
So
one.
Jennifer Saunders, right? Jennifer Saunders was Saunders and Booth. Is it Saunders and Booth? That not on that, but they did their own thing together. No, her last name wasn't Booth. And Saunders in French. That was Dawn French, very famous English comic and English actress. And Jennifer Saunders from Ab Fab, absolutely fabulous. The dark haired woman, not the blonde, right? So her husband is the one that worked with Rick Mall, and I know I'm gonna get bashed for mentioning his name wrong, in this show called Bottom.
I
And
think it's Rick Mail. Mail?
yeah, you're right. It's Rick Mail. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And his name was what was his name? He's still around. But the two of them together did this show, The Bottom. And then they did some like, I think there was a couple movies or a couple specials where they went out and did it on stage, and it was filmed live stage, and it was filmed and stuff. But very talented. So along those lines, that's great. I think great British comedy right there. And are you being served like that? Those classics, are you being served? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I
Or
remember that.
Keeping Up with Appearances, some great British stuff out there.
I've seen
And
pieces of all of those things because they have aired here.
yeah, on
Back in the day, there
yeah,
wasn't a lot to choose from, so when you stumbled on something, you did linger with it for a while, but it didn't make the lasting impression that it did on some. So, but
yeah, I love
Python did because of movies, and that later brought back to. And then people like Cleese have stood up in such a way, and he's pointed
John
out,
Cleese is brilliant. Are you
yeah,
kidding? He's been in James Bond, A Fish Called Wanda, guys all over the place.
and he's been brilliant in the last 10 years of commenting in social media. I give him a lot of credit for
Yeah, very
showing heart.
intelligent guy. You know who else? Fry. What's his first name? Oh God, Fry. And he did great comedy too.
One of the Python guys, Eric
No,
Idle.
no, no. I'm gonna tell you what his name is. Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry, of course, yeah. He's an actor and he's also done comedy, and he had
Yep.
that great show QI, if I remember correctly, was the
He
name of
had a
it.
great show that it was a really small little show. It had one of my favorite English actresses in it named Hermione Norris, and it was called Kingdom. And he was in a show called Kingdom where their last name was Kingdom. His sister was Hermione Norris. He was a lawyer in a really small town in England, and there was somebody like an assistant he had with him, and it was a very dry, sweet little comedy about a lawyer that was a do-gooder and the characters in the town. But it was like a comedy drama, you know. So it was a comedy drama. I call them comedy dramas.
So now
Yeah.
we went from the Beatles to the Osmonds to Bowie to Stephen Fry. Was Stephen Fry somewhat influenced as a child to become an actor because Paul McCartney waved at him? Can we finally link this loop so it can spiral back and hopefully satisfy the
So where are we going to end up
thread?
back on? Are we going to end up back on my YouTube channel that got a lot of hate because I stood up against bullying? That's where it lands on. So all of that, which is fine, because all of that we just talked about and shared is definitely bits of my life. It's definitely parts of the mosaic that is my life, right? And it also shows a relationship between you and me that goes back. So when people say Patty's so rude to fucking Phil, they'll say, man, if she let Phil go on, he would fucking prance us across each continent.
Well, don't make that stern of an accusation, but nonetheless, at least get us back to an ohm. It might very well end up at an ohm. So, but love you, sister. That's where that's at. You know that.
All right, man. So we're gonna call this a night because I gotta take a shower and go to bed.
Understood. All righty.
All right. Thanks, Phil.
Be well. Have a good night.
Talk to you on the next one. Bye.
All right.
Bye.